Hey everybody, welcome to Windows to Heaven Art Studio. I'm your host Stephen Cooley. Hope you guys all had a good Christmas. Now that the holidays are over, I don't know about you, but I'm looking forward to spring. So I'm wanting to paint something today with kind of a more of a spring theme. And it's going to be on a smaller canvas. I think it's maybe an 8 by 12. I haven't measured it exactly yet, but it's somewhere around that size. Normally when I'm painting, I try to input as much realism as I can into my paintings, but for this particular painting, I'm not going to worry so much about detail. I'm going to try doing a little bit of a different style. It's going to be a little bit more dreamlike because it is kind of a painting where I'm dreaming about spring, so I want to try to input that into this painting. So let's get into it. Oh, and by the way, this is going to be oil paint, just to make that clear too. I've done a lot of acrylic before, but I've been working on oils lately, so that's what this particular painting is going to be. So let's jump into it and see what we can learn. Here you can see I have a sketch already on the canvas, and I am starting to apply the background of this painting, which is, it's kind of going to be a flowering spring wood that is obviously really blurry and out of focus, but it's just in the background. So I'm adding some pink, some green, some white, even a little bit of blue up on the top edge of the canvas. And I'm just scrubbing that paint into the canvas, making it go as far as I can so that I don't end up with mud later on. Basically, what mud is when you glob so much paint on that, because it's oils, it remains wet, you glob so much paint on that it just starts mixing with everything and turning into this big muddy mess. And so I am keeping the paint layer thin to begin with so that it doesn't glump up like that. I'm just painting in the background around the sketch. Okay, so now I got it filled in pretty much the way I want it, and I'm adding in a little bit of green just to show some greenery in the background as well, so that it's not all just pink. And when I inputted the sketch onto this canvas, I just used graphite paper to do that, so it's really easy. You can see me adding a little bit more green paint there. Basically, I'm just continuing to blend out the green until I get something that I like. Now I am inputting the dark brown branch that the bird is sitting on. Super easy. Obviously, I'm going to lighten it up a little bit later on. This is just the base tone of the branch. And now I am starting to put in some of the leaves that are coming off of this branch, and basically I'm imagining that it is some kind of flowering fruit tree in the spring, maybe a crab apple or even just a regular apple tree, or maybe a plum, I don't know. And so I'm kind of making the leaves have a young, fresh, early growth kind of look. So they're going to be pretty light green. Now I am going to start painting the bird. And I'm taking a lot Oh, excuse me. Nope. Yeah, you're right. It's it's the flowers. I'm putting in some flowers here. I have a very small brush, and I am basically just blopping them on. I have a reference photo of some apple trees that are flowering, so I kind of use the same shape for that. And after I put those flowers on that branch there, I didn't really like the way that they were looking, so I took a blue shop towel and scrubbed off the excess paint, and took my brush and blended them back out into the background so that I could redo it. That's really easy to do. It might take a little bit more time, but it's worth it in the end for that finished painting that you want. Now, the bird is going to be the focus of this painting, so I would say 50% of the entire detail of this painting is going to be in that one bird. So I'm not worrying too much about these flowers or these leaves. I'm just plopping them on and leaving a lot of the detail up to your own eye and your imagination. Now, I used to live in the country where we had some land and a lot of trees like this that would flower in the spring. So it was kind of easier for me to know how it should look. But if you don't quite know how it should look, again, reference photos are really awesomely helpful. Alright, now I am starting on the bird with his legs. And I took a darker gray to input them. We're going to lighten them up a little bit later. And now I am starting to work on the bird. I hadn't decided on what kind of bird it would be at this point, but I knew it was going to be a warbler. If you don't know your birds, again, reference photos, but I couldn't figure out what kind of warbler I wanted it to be. So I just settled on a yellow warbler, which, as you can imagine with its name, it's basically just all yellow. So I'm putting on the yellow. It's a pretty light yellow. You can see I'm darkening the tail just a little bit because the light source in this photo is not really direct sunlight. It's more of a muted, misty, foggy kind of morning light that kind of is creating a dream glow effect on the painting. So there's not going to be a lot of really bright highlights. So it's going to be more muted. There's going to be a little bit of shadow, of course, but not that much. Right now I am using a little bit of a bigger brush, and I am making the background a little bit darker because once I got that bird in there, I didn't really like how the contrast was. There wasn't enough, so I decided to darken the background a little bit, and that's what I'm doing there. Alright, now I am taking my detailed brush. It's not the most detailed brush, it's kind of like a medium detail brush, and I am taking some white and highlighting those flowers. You can see I'm adding some more darker purple back there just to darken it up a little bit more. Again, working on that contrast. Now you can see I'm taking some darker yellow and putting it underneath the bird's belly there to add some shadow and some depth to the bird. You can see how that really makes it kind of just jump out at the viewer. You can see also I added a little bit of red in there just to put a little bit more color into it, highlighting his eye. And I am darkening the background even more just because, again, that contrast is really important for this picture. So I want to get the background just right. This was probably the most time-consuming part of the painting. If I had done this at the beginning, I would have cut off probably 15 minutes of the painting or more. So normally this painting wouldn't take that long just because it's a simpler painting. But I had to take a little bit extra time just because I had to go back to the background. You can see I put in some of those, oh boy, I don't even know what they're called. The middle part of the flower that's darker. You botanists out there can correct me on those, but I put those in, and I'm highlighting the leaves a little bit with some lighter green, also a little bit of white mixed in with some yellow on those leaves as well. And now I am adding a little bit more shadow underneath the bird with a brown. Also too, later on, for some shadows on the bird, I used a kind of like a darker olive green to shadow him as well, just so that I used some green just because I didn't want it totally brown on the shadows. That just helps add interest. And now I'm putting on some orange reddish kind of rufous stripes on his belly, and that's because I decided that he's going to be a yellow warbler. I finally figured out what kind of warbler he's going to be. So yeah, yellow warbler. And we are in the last stages of the painting now, just the detailed stages. You can see adding in some darker brown to his tail. For the highlights on the bird, I mixed a lot of white into my yellow. So that's what I'm sticking on there. And at this stage, you could spend a lot of time going into a lot more detail, I feel like, with this bird. But I want to create a different style of painting. So just like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm not going to go into a lot more detail than this. This is basically finished at this point. I'm working on his toes there. You can see I added another toe. That's because his left foot only had 2 toes. It should be 3. So I put another one on. Highlighting the branch some more. I actually used purple on that shadowing part there on the branch. And even some blue. Don't get pigeonholed with your colors where you feel like, to make it realistic, brown, branches should be brown and leaves should be green. You can add, you'd be surprised what you can put color-wise into different things. It really adds interest when you start using different colors for different things. Putting in some more highlights on the flowers. Now I'm putting on the finishing highlights on the bird. Okay, I think we're finished with the painting, and I'm pleased with the way it turned out. I hope you guys like it. I think the most important thing to take away from this video is probably more of a reminder. That is to have contrast, to plan your contrast in your painting. When I was doing this painting, I did the background, and then I started working on the foreground and the focal point, which is the bird and the flowering branch. And I started to realize that the background was too light and there wasn't enough contrast. And the bird wasn't really standing out like I wanted it to. So that's kind of a reminder, because I've talked about that, I think, in other videos. Keep contrast. So all I did was I added a little bit more of a darker shade to my paint and blended it into the background. And it really worked out because the background is blurry anyway, so it was pretty easy to do that. But yeah, keep contrast. Also, if you like the music put to these videos, you can look up my brother Aidan Cooley's link that he has in the description box of this video, which will take you to the various places where he has his music for sale as well. So be sure to check that out, and until next time, God bless you guys. We'll see you later.